Joy of Swindon, 8 AM.
Beautiful Swindon is where we collect our van from today, and we set off on a 10-hour round trip to 2 destinations to collect 5 arcade machines. Why? Well, as we build the new workshop through this summer, our repair facilities will be greatly diminished, and we wanted to make sure that the Arcade Archive Museum continues to give visitors a really good experience while taking the pressure off of ourselves. And our first stop is just north of London in Bedfordshire. Now Richard and I are funding these cabinets with a view to the arcade buying them off of us longer term. We're not dipping into the workshop build pot, just wanted to be super clear on that. As we arrive at our first destination, Stephen gives us a warm welcome where cabinet number 1 is waiting for us. Who remembers this one then? This is Tubing from 1988, and we will be looking at each cabinet in more detail later when we get them home. But this one is working, as you can hear. It's got an interesting marquee. We'll look at that later and see how that works. And yes, it does have a flat screen in it, so we'll be ripping that out and tidying up the rough edges on this cabinet in time. But I think this will be a really popular competitive addition to the museum in much the same way track and field is for head-to-head gameplay. It's also super skinny, although its base means it does take up the same footprint as a regular cabinet, but it's quite a unique look to this one. Now it's always nice when buying cabinets to get a look at sellers' own collections and game rooms, and Stephen was kind enough to invite us into his when we were loading up the van. So let's take a look. Stephen's collection contains immaculate examples of classic and rare arcade games, from an Asteroids cabinet with the Lander throttle lever on it, to a lineup of Atari colour vector games like Star Wars, Quantum and Black Widow. His pinball tables bookend a Robotron, Mad Planets, and what will definitely not be the last Outrun that we see today, not by a long shot. There's a Championship Sprint. Stephen is definitely an Atari fan. If we swing round next to that is an Atari System 1 machine with an Indiana Jones marquee and a Roadrunner control panel. Gorf with its cool flight stick there, a bit like Mad Planets. And here's a novelty. This is Ice Cold Beer, which is a mechanical game from 1983 by Taito. All of these are in wonderful condition and lovely to see, but there's no time to turn them on, there's no time to dilly-dally because we need to get into gear. And we now need to get back on the road for the next leg of our journey, which will take us around 4 hours to get all the way up country to Yorkshire to see if we can't put more arcades in van. Thank you, Stephen. And away we go via less than ideal service station coffee. Thankfully the roads were fairly clear as we made our way up the A1. It looks like suburban bliss with its bay windows and its spacious gardens. But I can imagine a few neighbours raised their eyebrows when they saw what was waiting for us to collect on Gary's driveway. And it is a majestic sight. Just have a look at this. What a lineup. Atari 720, a Nintendo licensed RType, Chase HQ and Road Blasters. On the face of it, all looking to be in nice condition, a lineup of absolute classics. We'll be back for those in a moment, assuming nobody steals them off of Gary's driveway, because Gary's whole place is gaming heaven. Gary, it seems, makes a business of selling classic arcades. There's his overalls there. And in his workshop, well, I would just buy everything in here if I could. There are cabinets here waiting to be picked up and waiting to be sold, ranging from Outrunners and Super Hang-On to a Superbug. We do have one of those waiting to be restored. Radmobile, which was a monstrous sprite scaling machine. I do enjoy that game. Ms. Pac-Man, I'm sure he won't have trouble selling that. and 2 immaculate paperboys. What struck me when I was here is that it's such a treat to see machines that look as good as they do in your rose-tinted memories. Despite them being decades old, they look just how I remember them. Tucked under here is a Nintendo Red Tent, that's a NES-based arcade system. But what will really blow you away is Gary's shed. While I keep a lawnmower and a chest freezer in mine, Gary's is something quite spectacular. Count them, there's 5 outruns on this wall, 6 if you count outrun 2. I don't think I saw that many outruns in a row even way back in the day. I was just happy to find one in an arcade. We can also see there's a turbo outrun cockpit. I never saw that before in the flesh. And that's very different to the original Outrun Deluxe style cab actually, but I like that style too. There's 4 outrun 2s along the back wall which are connected for link-up play. And these are the SP version, which is a later release of the game with extra tracks. The yellow ones with those huge screens and cockpits, and the red ones in the middle which are more of a Daytona or a Sega Rally sit-down cabinet with a smaller screen. A joke's not funny when you have to explain it, but what the hell, I didn't leave stock footage in my last video. It's PCB weigh-in scales. PCB are sponsors for today's episode. Yeah, it's awful, but I'm nowhere near the bottom of the barrel yet. Look forward to future PCB ads. This Hang-On Mini has a really cool compact cabinet. I've not seen that before. I'd love one of those. I really like the style of that. And to the right of that you'll see a Sega Rally 2 and a Power Drift, which is also for sale, but the monitor is a bit tired on that, and the wooden base right down at the bottom is a little bit swollen. So we passed that one up, but I'm sure it'll make someone happy. And finally in here was a Super Hang-On Deluxe, which I'm absolutely awful at. But I do like this stubbier bike design compared to the original Hang-On Deluxe cabinet, which I always thought looked a bit more like a Tron light cycle. This looks the business. This looks a bit more like a proper super bike. But yeah, what an amazing room. And well, it begs the question, where do you keep your lawnmower, Gary? Hidden in his house though is something even more special. It is, you guessed it, an Outrun, but it is perhaps the freshest example I've ever seen. This looks like it just came out the factory. There's not a ding, a scratch, a cigarette burn, a single thing out of place on this. It's immaculate, from the gear stick to the plush steering wheel to the marquee. You can quite literally see your own face in it. So cool. It is running an emulator in that, but Gary's not short of Outrun boards, believe me. And if that blew you away, prepare to be blown away again with an equally mint Chase HQ in this room. Once again, looking box fresh from top to bottom. It's almost too good to be played on. I mean, you wouldn't want to ruin it, would you, by touching it, using the throttle, using the gear stick. It's just wonderful to look at. Imagine if this thing turned up in your local chip shop tomorrow. It would be mind-blowing. And of course those pinball tables can't be ignored, all of them up to the same standard as the arcade cabinets. We're not interested or in the market for pinballs, but if we were, I think we'd probably take them all. Despite needing to get back on the road, both Holly and I did have great fun playing Cactus Canyon before returning to the shed for some head-to-head Outrun 2, because a driving game is exactly what you want to have a go on in the middle of a 10-hour drive. Alright, playtime's over, Holly. Let's get this loaded up and make sure everything is strapped in tightly for that long trip home. We don't want any accidents with this on board. And I can't wait to check out the cabinets and see if we've got any problems to deal with when we get back. Which ones will need some TLC, which ones can we put in and play straight away.
Just waiting for Holly and Neil to get back from their epic all-day trip up north. They're picking up some amazing cabs, so can't wait to see them and get them unloaded into the arcade. We've got a little bit of space, so we'll have to move a few around. But yeah, in a minute, we'll get to see some really exciting new cabinets.
12.5 hours from picking up the van, we rolled back into the mill at about 8:30 p.m. where an excited Richard was waiting for us to help unload. Some went into the arcade, some went into the garage until we worked out where to put them, and as night drew in and more driving was ahead of us to get home, we decided we should probably call it a day and come back tomorrow all refreshed to test them out. What a day. I'll sleep well tonight. First, I had a blast on RType from 1987. It's an iconic horizontal shooter, and it's actually the last arcade cabinet that Nintendo distributed, which is why it's in the same distinctive Nintendo style as Sky Skipper and Donkey Kong next to it. Then it had to be 720 with its unique spinning joystick controls and a huge 25-inch medium resolution monitor. Chase HQ also fired up, a game I naturally gravitate towards as an Outrun fan, but this adds the thrill of a turbo button and police chases into the mix. And as an extra visual feast, when you're in the chase, the marquee springs to life with its flashing lights. Now, as great as these all look, let's talk about problems and the fixes that we need to put on our list. Over on 720 it plays wonderfully, but I did notice that on the downhill section of the game there's sprite corruption when the player is rotated at a certain angle, which you can see here. So that's a bit irritating. And there's also corruption on the title screen when the logo's spinning on the screen there. So that's likely to be dodgy RAM, ROM or associated components, but it is still entirely playable in the meantime. The monitor will need a recap to help with the banding that you can see on the left hand side of it, and as a rare 25-inch medium resolution model, we do really want to keep that in top condition for as long as possible. The 720 cabinet as a whole is a very rare machine to come by, and I remember just how dominant that machine felt in my arcade with the huge Ghetto Blaster marquee topping it, and that boombox on the top that actually wraps all the way around the top of the cabinet, which anyone under about 6'2" would never see. Wouldn't have a chance of seeing what's going on up there, but Atari included that detail and I really love them for that. The one thing we have done with it so far is to lubricate the joystick a little, which gives us a chance to see inside the control panel. And you can see here that the stick is on a geared mechanism with a chain, just like your bike chain, and two discs allow the game to sense the rotation, that's the disc with the many holes on it, as well as a home position, that's the disc with just the two notches on it. It's simple, but it's effective, and it gives that player many degrees of rotation when playing the game. 720 if you want. Chase HQ did have a minor blip due to a poor joint which lost our analog controls, but once we'd reflowed that, all was well. And notice how the gear shift is on the left hand side of this one. On the US model it's on the right, but this cabinet was produced under license by Electrocoin here in the UK. RType plays really well with this lovely stubby joystick, it's perfect for this kind of game. We've noticed that moving diagonally up and right is a bit sticky on the joystick, so we'll give that a little bit of a service, but it's otherwise playing very well. Now the cabinet itself has obviously had quite a life. We knew this when we were picking it up, but it's a very rare cabinet, so we were happy to take on the task of tidying it up. Primarily it's the lower front panel here. That's been kicked in at some point, maybe someone trying to kick in the cash box. And it's not had the best paint job done to it all over the cabinet, but you don't really see that under the dark arcade lights. So it's good for now, but when the workshop is ready, Richard wants to pop in a new panel there and give it a better paint job. One thing I really do have to show you though is the monster that lives inside the 720 cabinet. That's the game board, and it must be 1.2, 1.3 meters high. It's the longest PCB I think I've ever seen in an arcade cabinet, longer than even an Amstrad CPC. What a wonderful sight, and very accessible. We can easily pop all of the ROMs off to dump and validate them when we're trying to diagnose the glitch. So those three cabinets are in the arcade, and we'll move over into the pump house now, where Holly and Jason are charging on with the workshop build, and I'm taking a look at tubing. I'd like to get this one into service as quickly as possible, and it shouldn't take too much to do that with Dan's help on the artwork and a replacement monitor which we have, but I'm really intrigued with how that marquee works, so let's take that apart quickly. You can see here it's got a standard top layer of perspex, then the artwork itself comes out, then there's a textured layer of perspex to give it a kind of shimmering water effect, and then under that there's these three rollers. I wasn't expecting to find these. These are rolling around, reflecting two lights, and somehow they're still working, but they are struggling. And for some reason, there's two bits of greased polystyrene wedged into them at the top. Now we can figure out why that is and make them operate much more smoothly when we give it a dedicated episode. But the overall result of that, I think, is quite pleasing. The control panel is in good condition, but it does have what looks like keyboard switches in the buttons. They feel quite nasty. We will be swapping those out in time. The cabinet runs on 110 volts and was imported from North America at some point in its life. I think when this was in my arcade it was just a kit in a generic cabinet. I definitely don't remember the distinctive shape or the marquee. And inside we can see that the original game board is in there, and nowhere near as big as 720. There's a newer power supply, and it looks like it's got a GBS board in there to convert the video output to a VGA output that the modern flat screen can use. That's easily removed and converted back to its former CRT glory. Labels on the back confirm that this was produced in California, unlike 720 and Road Blasters, because those came out of the Atari factory in Tipperary in Ireland, a bit closer to home. And the cabinet is entirely playable. It's got a really fun control scheme where you're flapping your left and your right hands, tank controls if you like, trying to guide the tube down the rapids. And finally, Road Blasters, my sweet child, what have they done to you? On the surface, a great looking dedicated Road Blasters cabinet with just the right amount of patina on the artwork up the side of it. It's got a lovely metal yoke for steering the car, but those fire buttons, they can't be original. So we want to fix those on the front and the back of the yoke. The artwork on the control panel, as well as the marquee, looks great. So far so good, no complaints. But when we look inside, we find an original Atari System 1 board, sure, but that's not connected to anything. And even if it was, it's not going to work with chips looking like they've been decapitated like this one here. And there's no sign of the wiring loom to even connect it if we wanted to. Brace yourselves, behold, instead it's the sacrilege that is an HP Compact PC with a Windows Vista license. Good lord, it's the kind of e-waste you see offices jettisoning by the hundreds. Now to be fair, the conversion has been done nicely. It's not half a PC slung into the bottom of the cabinet and flopping around. It's using an OptiPack for the analog controls, and it would make for a nice home MAME cabinet, but we just wouldn't be comfortable running this in a museum. So that will be coming out right away. Looking over them all then, we find ourselves living out our childhood's wildest dreams. Owning the actual arcade cabinets to games like these, and these home ports are as close as we could ever have wished of coming to owning an arcade. But now we have the chance to play them whenever we like and try to master them once and for all, and we can give visitors the same chance to try and do exactly the same. Well, it was an exhausting day to go and pick all these up, and Holly, bless her, had another 2-hour drive to get home after that, so she had a well-deserved lie-in. And I've enjoyed picking over the bones of what we've got today. We certainly achieved our goal, which was to drop some machines into the arcade and to improve that visitor experience and to help get us through the summer while we build this space here. And I should actually get into my scruffy clothes and pull my weight and help with that. And we also got some projects to work on. We're scratching our heads over what to do with the Road Blasters, but whatever we do, it's certainly not going to involve an HP Compact and a copy of Windows Vista. That's getting ripped out straight away. And tubing, we do have a medium resolution monitor, CRT monitor, that we can drop in there and find out what's making the marquee squeak, fix the bezel, make this all nice. And it shouldn't take too much work to get that straight into the arcade. So I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, we can do a dedicated episode on tubing very quickly. And then I'd like to hear what else you'd like to see. Would you like to see us diagnose those glitches on 720? Would you like to see us refurbish RType? Because I know Richard's going to be super keen to do that one. That was his dream machine, RType. He's always wanted that, and now he's got it, and no doubt he's going to want to make it look perfect. So there's some work to do on that. Or maybe we should just sort of have a single big episode where we mash up all of these things and do all of the maintenance on those cabinets to bring them bang up to speed together. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. And then, of course, when this workshop's built, there will be tons of arcade content because we have got a room full of arcades waiting to be restored, and we'll finally have all the facilities to do that. I hope you've enjoyed today's trip out. If you have and you'd like to come and try these for yourself, head to retrocollective.co.uk where you can buy a ticket to visit. We've got a really cool talk by Tony Temple on arcade raids, the secret world of arcade raids, on the 8th of June. So book a ticket to come along to that if you'd like. And I'm going to turn this space into a temporary art exhibition with all of our broken cabinets. And I will make a video on that too, so don't worry if you can't make it. So go and book a ticket. And if you love what we're doing and you want to support our preservation efforts, head to patreon.com/The Retro Collective, which is exactly what all of the people that appear on our credit roll have done. So thank you very much to them. And thank you to you for watching. See you next time. Take care.